Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our Sumati's questions. Today, we're going to discuss about questions 7 and 8. The first question is, how to cause others to believe one's words? And question number 8 is, how may all hindrances to practicing Dharma be removed? Let's see the answer by the Buddha. Moreover, Sumati, a bodhisattva accomplishes 4 dharmas for his speech to be believed by others. What are these 4? The first is developed speech and cultivations, always in unison. The second is to not do evil things to virtuous friends. The third is to not find faults in the Dharma one has heard. The fourth is to not give rise to a mind of evil for one who speaks the Dharma. When I look at this question, the first thing that comes into my mind is the word integrity. Integrity means following your moral or ethical convictions and doing the right things in all circumstances, even if no one is watching you. Having integrity means you are true to yourself and would do nothing that demeans or dishonors you. Once we lost the trust from others, it is as good as declaring bankruptcy of a moral character. I remember, more than 20 years ago, when I wanted to change a job. So one day when I went for an interview, the interviewer asked, "What kind of quality should a purchaser have?" I was going for a purchaser position. I couldn't remember what did I say, but I remember the man told me it is integrity. His answer left a very strong impact on me. Integrity is not only important for purchaser, it is important for everyone. Now coming back to developing speech and cultivation in unison. In Buddhism, we have the 3-in-1 cultivation. What do I mean 3-in-1 cultivation? We always talk about body, speech, and mind in our cultivation. We never said do good deeds only, or speak good words only, or think good thoughts only. But we mentioned about all these 3 should be practiced at all times. However, there are times when we are blinded by our desire, hatred, or ignorance. As such, our speech and cultivation are not in unison. Mindfulness practice guides us from being led by our desire, hatred, and ignorance. When we saw someone whose speech and cultivation is not in unison, do not rush into criticizing them. I too often hear people criticizing Buddhists not practicing what Buddhism preaches. Everybody has to go through their learning curve. We should encourage and guide them. Last week I mentioned about Johari windows, where there are things that are blind to us but known to others. We keep an open mind when others point out our mistake. On our path in cultivation, we are bound to make mistakes. Acknowledge them, but Do not be too critical of ourselves. Make changes and move on. The second answer is not to do evil things to virtuous friend. We mentioned about the qualities of a virtuous friend in our last class. Virtuous friends are hard to come by, as such we should cherish them and not to betray them in return for wealth, fame, etc. In this particular sutta called Upada Sutta, they translated it as half of the holy life. I put that in bracket, whole of life, because this is the answer by the Buddha. One day, Ananda had some realization and he happily shared with the Buddha. He said, "This is half of the holy life, the blessed one. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie." Buddha said, "Don't say that, Ananda. Don't say that. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie is actually the whole of the holy life. When a monk has admirable people as friends, companions, and comrades, he can be expected to develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path." This sutta describes the importance of virtuous friends on our journey to liberation. Therefore, how can we do evil things to them? Sometimes we thought that whatever I have, whatever I possess, is all due to my hard work. They got nothing to do with others. I don't want anybody to claim credits to them. But from dependent origination, we know that we are very much interdependent. Without others, without all these factories, farmers, doctors, and nurses, etc., we can't be surviving on our own. Of course, you can live on an island by yourself. You dig your well, grow your vegetables, etc. But you'll be busy all day to sustain yourself. With division of labor and specialization, we have more time. We can spend time on our cultivation or leisure. Henceforth, we shouldn't be petty about giving credits to others. When Ananda talked about that, of course, I don't think he meant to be so petty. But he thought that, well, half of it is due to his hard work in cultivation, and the other half is because of virtuous friend. But Buddha was quite quick to point out his mistake. I remember the very first time I heard about this story, I was rather shocked because I thought the same way as Ananda. But Buddha said, if you find virtuous friend who guide you on your spiritual path, yes, that is whole of it. Virtuous friends may appear in different manner. They may not appear with a smiling face, gentle words, tender touch, or always fulfilling your wishes. We now move on to the third answer. Is not to find faults in the Dharma one has heard. The first fault is like an inverted cup, which means that one is not listening to the Dharma teachings. Although one is in attendance at the Dharma teaching, one doesn't pay careful attention to what the teacher is actually saying. Not only for listening to Dharma, in the family, Sometimes when our children would want to talk to us, but we don't have time to pay attention to them. Maybe we are busy in the kitchen cooking. We simply just don't bother about that. But I saw another scenario happen. I saw a mother when she was talking to a friend. Then her young son interrupted her. She patiently asked her son what he wanted. After listening to him, then she told him to wait and explained that her conversation with her friend has not ended. The son then patiently waited for a while. Then he interrupted again. The mother turned to her son and asked him to wait again. I was very impressed by this mother. She listened to her son, but at the same time educated her son not to interrupt and practice patience. The second is similar to a cup with crack in it, which means that one does not retain the Dharma in one's mind. If you don't make an effort to remember it, it's important that without distractions, you focus on the teacher's actual words and the meaning of the teachings to memory. Sometimes we listen and then we forget because we did not train our mind to stay in focus. Mindfulness practice is helpful to keep distractions at bay. Another method is repetition. There is one method called mega drilling, has proven especially powerful. According to this technique, you have got to actively recall the memory 30 times. Hence, the first thing is to stay focused so that you get to listen most of the Dharma said. Then the next is through repetition to keep your memory alive. However, we face with a dilemma. The brains work well with repetition, but we don't like that. Making learning Dharma fun, then you wouldn't mind repeating them. As for myself, sometimes I will replay what I have heard, and of it, I will take down notes. Then I share what I have learned to others. If I couldn't find a suitable person, then I will record on my phone. Another method is reflection. I may not understand all the Dharma that I have learned, but I always keep this on my mind, and I will use different ways to try it out. During Buddha's time, after the Buddha had given his sermon, he would ask if there's any questions to be clarified. If not, then he would ask his disciples to find a place to sit down and think over again what he has said. I find this is the best method for me. The third thought is that of a dirty cup. I use yellow to indicate dirty because it's the color theme for my PowerPoint. Dirty means distorted views or a wrong type of ideas and belief. For example, some people may feel that drugs is good because drugs make me happy, drugs make me relief, drugs takes away my worries, and therefore I like to consume drugs. Someone may try to discourage these drug addicts, but he or she find this person annoying and say, rubbish, I don't believe in you. Hence, in the Noble Eightfold Path, having right view is very important. Once you get it right, then you can walk on the path. Things will be much easier. This tainted cup is also like our defilements. our mind is mixed with the poison of the defilements when listening to the Dharma. Although one may appear to be practicing Dharma, if greed, hatred, and ignorance cloud the mind, one is not engaging in pure virtue. All these three faults are not faults of the speaker, but are that of the listener. There are times when we behave like these three cups. We either show no interest or pay little attention or with suspicion. This is a hindrance to listening to the Dharma. The fourth answer is not to give rise to a mind of evil for one who speaks the Dharma. The most important Dharma practice is to cease delusions, the three poisons, which are the root of all sufferings. We must be humble when learning the Dharma, be receptive. Of course, this doesn't mean one can't point out others' mistakes at all, but when you do it with loving kindness. One can point out mistakes and make suggestions. This is how you discuss and communicate according to Dharma. This way, there's no danger for oneself. One doesn't do unwholesome acts. And to conclude, at that time, the Bhagavan spoke a verse by developing speech and cultivation in unison, not harboring animosity for virtuous friend, and not seeking faults in the Dharma or its teacher. What you say will be believed and accepted by all. This concludes the answer to Sumati's question 7. Question number 8. How may all hindrances to practicing Dharma be removed? Moreover, Sumati, Bodhisattva accomplishes 4 dharmas to keep away from obstacles to practice the Dharma and quickly attain purity. What are these 4? The first is to accept the 3 cumulative pure precepts with profound conviction. The second is that one does not give rise to slander for extremely profound sutras. The third is to perceive the intention of newly aspired bodhisattvas give rise to the mind of omniscience. The fourth is regarding sentient beings with great kindness and equanimity. With reference to answer number 1. What is 3 cumulative pure precepts? They are do no evil, practice good, actualize good for others. These 3 are like the tripod stands. They are the basis of the Bodhisattva precepts. But these 3 are only parts of the Bodhisattva precepts. I'm not going to cover the others. These 3 precepts are like the 3 stands, which are equally as important. Besides refraining from doing evil, we have to put our kind attention into actions, not only doing good for ourselves, but also for others. The precepts provide foundation for how we relate to others and function in the world. The second answer is that one does not give rise to slander for extremely profound sutras. This is pretty straightforward. Let's see a story in Madhyama Agama number 25. It tells a story about someone who came to insult Buddha. But Buddha kept silence and did not respond. After he had stopped, Buddha asked him, "If you bring someone a gift and he does not accept it, does the gift remain with you?" "It does," he replied. The Buddha said, "Now you insult me, but I do not accept it. This insult will only bring yourself harm." Everyone wishes to be as cool as the Buddha. It requires a lot of practice. Why he can remain silent? There are many reasons that he remains silent and calm when being scolded. We can use the four immeasurable minds to answer. He saw the man who is suffering. He suffered from hatred. To remove his hatred is to let him understand. Letting go of his anger does not solve his problems. The Buddha used loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom to handle this problem. He understood that arguing doesn't help. To get the angry man to calm down, one has to be patient, for the man is suffering at that moment. Whenever we come across people quarreling, you notice that as they get heated up, their voices get louder and louder, but they couldn't hear each other's. The heart is closed. But when you see loving couples talking, they whisper, and they can hear each other's. Their hearts are open. The third answer is to perceive the intention of newly aspired bodhisattva give rise to the mind of omniscience. The Chinese meaning of this answer is about someone who just started off and have decided to vow to be a bodhisattva. Usually a person who just started on the bodhisattva path, they are highly motivated, diligent in their practice. Hence, this is as good as an advanced practitioner who has a mind of omniscience. Here is a story about a monk and his young disciples who went out wandering one day. Usually, the novice monk would help the elder monk to carry their baggage. Then one afternoon, the novice monk thought to himself, "Human beings have to go through many cycles of birth and death. There are too many sufferings. I want to practice hard and become a bodhisattva to liberate all beings." Then his master, who had already attained arahatship, was able to penetrate the minds of others. He was aware of his disciples' thoughts, and he felt that he should pay respect to a newly aspired bodhisattva who give rise to the mind of omniscience. The master then asked the novice monk to pass him the baggage, and he walked behind him. The novice monk, not knowing why, passed the baggage to his master, and happily he whistled all his way, while the master was smiling behind him. Then in the evening, the novice monk thought to himself again, "To be a bodhisattva, one needs to observe the 6 paramitas. That is, to be generous, non-violations, endurance, diligent, mindful, and prajna wisdom. These take on a lot of hardship. Moreover, there are so many suffering beings in the universe. How could I be able to liberate all? Maybe it's better for me to live a carefree life and not be bothered about being a bodhisattva. Just as he finished his thought, his master told him to carry the baggage and walk behind. The elder monk respected his disciple for his pure and great intention. Therefore, he offered to help his disciples to carry the baggage and let him take the lead. But as soon as his disciple backed out, the elder man was disappointed. Although the intention of a newly aspired bodhisattva gives rise to the mind of omniscience, this intention has to be persistent. It cannot be like the novice monk whose intention changes as and when he likes. In daily life, when we want to pursue a particular interest, or like the very famous topic of reducing one's weight, very often few of them persisted till the end. Diligence, or to put in effort in pursuing anything, is one of the key elements to success. The last answer is regarding sentient beings with great kindness and equanimity. In the previous story, although the bodhisattva path is not an easy one, we should strive to be kind to people whom we know and also to people that we don't know. We can start from small kindness, like giving others a smile or a pat on the shoulder. Small kindness, like donating food. And gradually we can expand our kindness to no harm or ahimsa in Sanskrit term. No killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, and no intoxication. The first 4 precepts are no harm to others, while the last one is to cause no harm to oneself. A bodhisattva has to be kind to himself or herself and to others. Next is to treat everyone like our family members. No discrimination, regardless of race, culture, beliefs, education, status, etc. Sadly, some of the above mentions are being politicized, causing unrest in the society. What is our aim? Our aim is to have a mind of kindness for all beings. This made me think about a real-life story about a monk who was being put into a prison and was treated very badly. When he was being released from the prison, a reporter asked him what was his greatest fear in the prison. He said his only fear was that he would lose his compassion for those who torture him. This is true Bodhisattva spirit. Then, at that time, the Bhagavan spoke a verse. By accepting the precepts with profound intention, believing and understanding extremely profound sutras, and venerating the mind of a beginner as Buddha's thoughts, and having a mind of kindness, one eliminates obstructions. The last one, that having kindness for everyone can be easily achieved through observing the 5 precepts. I always say to vow to observe the 5 precepts is like declaring to the whole world that I want to be a good person. Simple. Even a child would tell their parents that they are a good boy or good girl. We want to be good for the humanity. Being good. We can start from our family or someone close to us. Although I know in some family, this is quite challenging. We can remind ourselves using the analogy of the 3 types of cup. Use this analogy to keep yourself mindful of paying attention to others in the family.
So I like the 3 cups a lot, although I've heard it many times, and I admit that most of the time I'm the cup that is cracked and dirty. Yeah, so I like to think that because I have cracks, right, I need to constantly refresh on the same teaching again, over and over again, because it keeps the retention is not there. That's why we need a lot of refreshments. And because my cup is tainted, right? Yeah, I think the more you listen, actually, as a beginning Buddhist, right, I believe that I have a lot of wrong views. Yeah, but as I find that as the more I fill myself with the purity of the Dharma, right, I find that it seems to wash away the impurity in the cup, and it gets cleaner and cleaner as I go on. Yeah, but I wonder how I'm going to mend the cracks. So I recall that this one this book about Buddha Dharma Pure and Simple. Yeah, about how to listen. Yeah, we learn how that we have to listen fully, listen attentively, listen to all perspective. Yeah, I think with this kind of listening, right, we can really try to amend the cracks in our cups. Yeah, that's all.
That book is by Venerable Master Hsing called Buddha Dharma, Pure and Simple. And inside the book, it talks about the skill of listening, as mentioned earlier on by Get Hua. It's a good read for beginner. I hope that through this class, we learn how to build a better relationship with our family members, our partners, husband, wife, children. And if there's any positive influence in our family, then we'll be motivated to move out of our small circle to others. Let us try to spread loving kindness around. We shall end here and see you next week. Goodbye.